Hello everybody, me again, Andrew. Alright, you know what, I'm going to start off this video something a little bit different. As some of you might know, this is already, I mentioned in the last video that I'm currently in this bungalow, which is my art studio. And I thought I'd just show you a piece that I've been working on a little bit at the moment, something a little bit different. So, yeah, so not quite, well, it's pretty much there. It's one of those things with painting, you never really finish. You know, you always look back at it and think, I could do something else. And I remember many years ago an artist said to me, sometimes, man, you just got to walk away. And it was one of the best things I learned about art. Because I remember that, because I think it's endless. It's endless. Now in this video, I'd like to share with you some of my views on, well, the challenges of right now in terms of our mindsets, because we have this idea, which has been fair enough most of our lives, that there's been a sort of thing that you want certain things in life, you put the effort in and work towards them. And I mean, like, things don't always work out. Things do fail, but we learn and we can keep going in a direction we want to go in. But right now, that's been taken away from us in many ways, and people are losing businesses, as you're well aware. And not just their businesses, all sorts of things. And one of the big struggles that comes from that sometimes is, actually, it's our own minds, believe it or not. I know that people say, oh no, but this thing's happening to me. And it's true, it is happening to you. But how you respond to it is your choice. Now, I'm not putting a blame on you at all. It's not easy. It's not easy, especially if you've never heard anything like this before. And what I'm saying is not actually unique to myself. I've studied over the years a lot of different philosophies and, religions, all sorts of things. Just looking for wisdom wherever I can find it. And some of you may be aware that this is somewhat a Buddhist type teaching to do with, and it's not just the Buddhists, that all suffering comes from our desires, or our attachment to these desires, and something along those lines anyway. Maybe not exactly that's what they say verbatim, but along those lines. So essentially, it's our attachment to things that create suffering. So I'm not saying there's anything wrong with material things, mind you, or anything, okay, that you desire. I'm not saying that. Nothing wrong with that. But it's the fact of our unfulfilled desires that we're hanging on to, and our resistance towards what's actually taking place when we, through our best efforts, we can't overcome it. Well, we do create our own suffering. So then the question is, what do you do about that then? It's not easy just to turn that stuff off. But it's about changing our mindset about things. Now, I'll give you a personal example. I've gone through this many times. And I realize, and I come back to it and think, I realize I'm doing this to myself, as we all essentially are. So one method, as the Buddhists often do, is just think, well, I'll just have desire for nothing, or as little as possible. And that's that's one method. Still, there's some tricks with that too, because as the great Alan Watts, which some of you may be familiar with, one of my favourite philosophers, is pointing out that when if you say to someone, it's your desires that are creating your suffering, and then people say, well, then I just won't have any desires. Well, it's like, well, then you're still desiring to desire not to have desires. So it's a trap. You can't get out of it. So then, the way I look at this then, I'm not trying to make this like a really, really nihilistic or existential type problem for people, in terms of suffering and stuff, but it's, well, okay, there's nothing wrong with having desires, nothing wrong with having goals, dreams, which is what we've all pretty much have in different capacity. But these restrictions on us at the moment in different ways, and it's making it hard to achieve those things, is going to continue that until either the circumstance change, okay, but then you're putting your joy and your happiness upon something external to yourself, okay, which is never a good thing to do. And people do that with all things all the time, that they think, when I get this, or I meet this person, or I go to this place, or have this thing, or this job title, or whatever it is, then I'll be joyful. But you're actually always living in the future. This idea of joy is coming, happiness is coming. It can happen right here, right now. And I'm not taking away from your suffering and things are going on right now, because some stuff right now is very, very, very real for people. It's very I mean, even just putting food on the table, I know has been a challenge for a lot of people, and it seems that that's not getting better at all. So I'm not diminishing those things, so please don't get me wrong on that. What I'm trying to say is we need to refocus our attention, refocus on things. So again, I was going to give my personal example here. So over the last 18 months, I've had a lot of loss, and I've also put in maybe awful, but it's not a great word, is it? I put in a tremendous amount of effort into really putting a lot of energy into starting up new businesses. And they've had a little bit of momentum, but I've spent a lot more money than I've actually been able to get back because of all the nonsense that's going on. And I did get frustrated a lot of times and angry sometimes about the state of things. And, rightly so, because it's not me that's creating the problem for myself in that regard, in the business, because there's interest, potential, but people too scared to come out to where I live because it's out in the mountains here and it's not near Melbourne, and people too afraid to get out of the zones. And there's a number of other problems, obviously financially too, that a lot of people don't have as much money to buy certain things. But I kept pushing, kept trying, because I was thinking, well, I want to do this in my life, even though I've had all these losses and, money hasn't been great and all these things have happened. Thinking, no, I've still got my dream, and I'm just going to keep pushing. And all I was doing was really tiring myself out and getting nowhere. And I want to make this clear. I haven't given up on my dreams and goals at all. I haven't. But what I realized was that, well, there's a number of things to talk about in this, but I'm probably not going to get into all of it right now. It's quite deep, actually. I'll just stick to the main subject here. That I realized that it was my desire to really try and make these things happen with all my might and all my effort. It wasn't really getting anywhere. And as a result, I was actually just stressing myself out and feeling really, really angry and frustrated and creating my own suffering, my own pain, in a sense, from doing so. And I wasn't wrong in desiring these things. It wasn't about that at all. But it's a bit like you find a lot of Eastern philosophies where they talk about, I guess, everything being a bit like a flow of water, stream. I won't get into all that sort of stuff, but life is a bit like that. It has these sort of waves that go up and down, and we get to the top, and then we go down the bottom. And at the moment, we seem to be right at the bottom of this storm, and it seems to be a pretty big wave. And rather than resisting it, swimming against it, because it's often a lot bigger than what than our ability. We can just go with it, go with whatever's happening, or we can try and swim out sideways and get out of the river, so to speak. But swimming against the current of what's going on, well, you do tire yourself out, you frustrate yourself. Now, I know that if you've got monetary worries, you might be thinking, well, how am I going to make this happen? I need money. Okay. Well, I've got a couple of things to say about that aspect, and still it's not going to be a panacea that's going to say, oh, everything's all right all of a sudden. But sometimes we cling on to how we think things should be. So for instance, if you've always been, I don't know, perhaps let's say carpenter, although maybe not the best, because I know there's still a bit of work around for that at the moment, but there are certain roles at the moment people have lost their, that just haven't really been needed as much during these times. Perhaps things in entertainment, for instance, and it's been tricky to get those things going because it's nature of people. Anyway, I'm getting a little bit off there. The fact is, you may have had a certain job that you've always done, and now that job's become somewhat redundant in this current climate. So trying to make it happen because you want to try and get the same price point or whatever it is, well, you're just going to be frustrating yourself, and you're going to be struggling, and you're pushing against a pretty big tide of things at the moment. So perhaps the thing to do is to look at something else completely different, and it might not be something that you really want to do. And but however, it's all about a mindset. If you rather look at, I don't want to do this, I'm this, we've got to let go of the ego a lot of the time. That I'm worth this much, it's what I've always done, whatever else, or I'm too proud to do this other job because whatever it is, you work it out for yourself, okay? Yeah, because I know there's a lot of you out there who have that going on. I think a lot of people have been there in some way or another. I'm sure I've been there in my younger years, without a doubt. But right now, for me, I've been taking any old thing, and I've enjoyed it all, loved it, and just looked at the good things in all of it, and had a good attitude about it. That's it. It's a mindset. You can choose to be that way. So, with all this stuff going on, you might have to look at it and go, well, maybe I just have to let certain things go. And it's not an easy thing, but then you realize how much your happiness has been put on certain items that when they're removed, now you don't feel as happy. But that's not where happiness comes from. That's not where joy comes from. It comes from within. It always comes from within inside yourself. It's often how I say when people have relationships and they don't work out, well, they get excited at the beginning and they say, oh, I'm very happy this person's in my life. And that's, of course you are, okay. However, if you're dependent on putting having that person in your life for your joy and happiness, again, you put something external outside of yourself, saying that I need this external thing to be happy, and when it's not there, I'm not. But the truth is, any relationship you meet that makes you feel joyful and happy, all they've really done is brought forth what was already inside yourself. And that goes for anything in life. If you say, doing this thing made me happy, blah, blah, well, maybe it did. Maybe it had a trigger point to it. The truth is, it didn't give you the happiness. It didn't give you the joy. It just drew forth what was already within you. And you're saying that thing was the thing that made me happy. But no, it didn't. It just showed you that you already have that within inside yourself. So this can be a tricky thing for people to not realize that aspect, but then to say, well, maybe I just need to let certain things go. That's the hard thing. It's the attachment. I'm telling you, it's the attachment. If you're holding on, if you're struggling right now to rent a certain place or hold on to this certain car you had, or because of loans, or look, whatever the situation is, you'll know for yourself. And you're holding on to that, and you're really struggling to keep this thing going. Why are you doing it? Why do you believe that you need this thing so much? Now, I'm not saying you don't need a roof over your head or anything like that. And I mean, it's challenging. I mean, it's not. I've faced homelessness over this last 18 months twice, and it's like, wow, far out. It's not a great feeling. Not a great feeling at all. But I just had to get my mind to think, well, I'll look at what I do have and be grateful for that instead, and realize that trying to hang on, trying to force myself to try to stay here or there or whatever, I'll just stress myself out more. Sometimes it's best just to accept, well, I have to let this thing go. This thing, this person, this job, whatever it is, you work it out for yourself. You'll know. I mean, I can't possibly imagine talk about every single scenario. I mean, I'm happy to do so, but I just don't know everyone's life story. But I hope it's resonating to you, because this is a common thing. We all have this problem. When you realize it and you wake up to it, then you kind of go, oh, okay, you know what? I really am doing this. And I'm telling you the truth. And sometimes people don't like the truth. In fact, a lot of the time they don't like the truth. They don't like the truth if it affects them and have to confront that within themselves particularly. And that's not everybody, but it is. I mean, even myself, I've realized sometimes, it's true about myself. Bugger. Someone points something out to me. But what I'm getting at here in this video, essentially, is to look at, what are you holding on to right now that's really keeping you bound up in the suffering? And is it even your pride? Is it your ego? That are you too afraid to ask for help? Are you too afraid to say, I've lost my home, but I can live with my parents, but I'm too proud to do that, and I'm just going to struggle and really freak myself out and stress myself out big time to try to, just so I just don't have to accept help. That's not uncommon either. A lot of men are like that too. I'm not saying women aren't, but men are generally, a lot of men are like that. Not all, but to be honest, I can probably be a little bit like that. Very, very stubborn sometimes too, a bit fixed. Anyway, that's my thing. So anyway, I'm just trying to share this as something for you to reflect on and think about. And I also want to welcome people to write to me. Again, hopefully I don't get inundated that I can't keep up with everyone, because I do care, and I do want to help. So I don't want to get so many things I can't get back to people and I think I don't care. But so if I get a general theme, I'll try and maybe address that. But anyway, I'm going to keep making videos. So look, everyone have an awesome day, wonderful day. It's I'm looking out the window here at the moment, and it's very beautiful trees and that, because I actually live out in a forest region, and it's a bit cool. I did take off the coat now though, so it's not quite as cold. But anyway, everyone, have a wonderful day.